This week, we see the beginning of the end of the Xbox One, PlayStation ventures further into cloud gaming, and more. So let's just go ahead, together, as a people, and take it out! And welcome to another sensational Sunday. I'm Mike, and I'm trying to get Steam Deck verified. I know it's not currently possible since I'm not a game or an application, but one can still dream. But you know what is finally Steam Deck verified? The Last of Us Part 1. So it's been a while since we talked about The Last of Us Part 1 on PC, but it launched in a rough state. The last comment that Naughty Dog made on the Steam Deck verification was, it just wasn't a focus because they needed to get the issues with the game fixed, which makes sense. The verification just basically says that this game runs on the Steam Deck, but there are plenty of games that still work on the Steam Deck that aren't verified, so it's not super important. It's just more of a like nice to have thing. Well, Last of Us Part 1 has officially become Steam Deck verified as of the 1.10 patch. So aside from getting the game Steam Deck verified, the patch also promises performance and graphical fixes. I haven't checked back in on it since the game launched because I wanted to enjoy my playthrough of it on PC, especially with this being my first time with the series, so I decided to wait until the fixes came out. The list of fixes in this patch is very long, so it seems like this was a huge update for the game. I'm definitely going to check back in on it, and maybe I'll do it in video form on the Steam Deck, since that was the main platform I was playing it on anyway. But let me know in the comments if you checked out the game recently and how it's performing. But if you have a PS5, this isn't even an issue because the game runs just fine up there. In fact, if you have a PS5, you may be getting another way to play games outside of waiting for them to download. So Sony is looking to increase their offerings when it comes to services, and one of the things that they offer on their higher PlayStation Plus tiers is game streaming. But the one thing that's been missing from their streaming lineup are PS5 games. Well, Sony is now testing streaming PS5 games with the end goal to make this a feature on PS Plus Premium. Now, when they released the PS Plus tiers back in the day when I had a PS5 still, I didn't think that there was enough of a benefit from going to Premium over Extra, so it's good that they're trying to flesh out the tiers and offering a bit more. The IGN article also mentions them announcing Project Q, which is the code name for their streaming-only handheld that's designed for remote play from a PS5. So this could potentially be a benefit for that product and at least give people an option to use it outside of the house as long as they have an internet connection. There are also the game trials they offer on the premium tier. One of the issues that I had with it was having to download the whole game just to try it for like an hour or two. So it also makes sense to offer a streaming option for those games if they can. While streaming isn't my favorite way to play games, it's obviously going to play a way bigger role in the future, so it makes sense for Sony to bring PS5 games to the cloud. But you know who's been ahead on cloud streaming? Microsoft, and it's finally going to come in handy for people who have an Xbox One, as Microsoft has announced that they are no longer making new first-party Xbox One games. They basically said that they want to focus on their new hardware, so they're not limited by the previous generation when it comes to development of games. Of course, this doesn't render the Xbox One completely useless because they have a large library of games, plus you can still stream Series X games on the console. See how I did that tie-in from the lead into the story? Nice. Like the Engadget article points out, they're basically 3 years into this generation, which, side note, it really doesn't feel that long. The pandemic has ruined my perception of time. But yeah, it's about time for Microsoft to drop support for the Xbox One, now that all the new consoles are readily available to buy. It also makes sense for Microsoft to stop support before Sony, since the Xbox didn't sell nearly as well as the PS4. I suspect Sony will follow eventually, but the PS4 install base is a lot larger than the Xbox was, and their business strategy is different from Microsoft's because Microsoft is mostly focused on services now, so we'll see what happens down the road with the PS4. But we're still not done with Microsoft because we got a small update about this Activision Blizzard acquisition, and that's what we're talking about in our final story. So last we checked in on Microsoft and Activision, they got approval from the EU and China. The CMA in the UK was still no, but they filed their appeal on that decision. Well, one of the biggest regulatory bodies that they're still waiting for a decision on is the FTC in the US. Well, the federal court has issued a restraining order to temporarily block the acquisition. Now, this isn't really bad news for Microsoft. It's basically to make sure that they don't close on the deal before the FTC gives their ruling. But Microsoft has noted that this is actually a positive, since it's going to speed up the process in the US. The preliminary hearing is already scheduled to take place on June 22nd and 23rd. The deal was originally supposed to close on July 18th, and with the current issues with the CMA, it may not happen by that date. So again, with the FTC, this isn't really bad news for Microsoft. It's just them going through the legal process to make sure that this decision is rendered before the deal closes or doesn't close, depending on what they decide. But I've decided to get up out of here and bring this video to a conclusion. But let me know what you think about the end of Xbox One first-party titles. Do you think it's too soon, or is it time for us to move on? And I'm moving on to a close, the second part of the close. But if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be notified when I drop a video or a live stream. And always do at least 2 things at the same time.